Okay, so then Pratik, as we were discussing earlier, now you are looking at the city from above, and the neon lights, they look like nightshade. It's a kind of plant, right? Actually, nightshade is a family of plants, not just one plant, right? And the city is like a briar that is, kind of a. You may have seen the kind of thing on which these, Muslim people carry their dead bodies. That is what you mean by a briar. The city is like a briar, and the neon lights are like the nightshade that is on this briar. So the city has, for the poetic persona, the city is not at all a pleasant place, right? So we know that from the words nightshade and the briar, right? So that is there, the end of the first part of the poem, right? Above the muffled traffic. So still remember that you are up there in the sky, all right? Probably you are looking at the city from the point of view of the owl. Above the muffled traffic. So up there you don't hear the traffic very well. And anyways, during the winter time, because the air is so packed, right? Uh, you know, sounds are muffled during the winter. I don't know why. Most probably it is because the air is thicker during winter time because of the cold, right? During the summer, air expands and air is, sounds disperse. During the winter, for some reason, things are louder, right? So, and anyways, it's muffled as well, louder and muffled, right? Above the muffled traffic, then, I hear the owl, and at his note, I shudder in my private chair. So the poetic person is at home, sitting in his own chair, and then he hears the sound made by the owl above the sound of the traffic. So the owl must be very loud, like my owl, right? I shudder in my private chair. That's a tactile image, right? For like an ogre, he has come to roost among our crumbling walls. So, like an ogre is somebody who can tell you what is going to happen next, right? So, remember the city is a briar, right? A vessel for a dead body. So, the owl is a fortune teller, somebody who can foretell future, like an ogre, right? He has come to roost among our crumbling walls. This, owl has come to tell us what is going to happen to us in the future, and he has made his home among the crumbling walls, all right, of the city. His blooded talons seethe in fur. His blooded talon, his talons, the owl's talons are covered in blood, but they are in, they are like weapons, right? Sorry, seethe in fur. Some secret lure of time, it seems, had called him from his country ways to hunt a newer wasteland here. So his natural surrounding is the country ways, right? Country ways that there, where there are no buildings. So for a city person, country would be a wasteland, right? That is how city people usually see the countryside. Either they romanticize the countryside, or they consider it to be a waste. Obviously, this poetic person thinks of the country as a waste. So he says some secret lure of time. Lure is an attraction. Some attraction had called this bird that should be in the countryside to hunt in a newer wasteland here. Now, not only does he see the country as a waste, he sees the city also as a wasteland. So both the country and the city are wastelands, right? And where the candelabra swung, candelabra is lighting device, like a chandelier, right? Candelabra swung. We are talking about a long ago, right? When candles were used to light up houses, and where the candelabra swung bright with the dancer's thousand eyes. So that's a visual image. Right? Long time ago, in the place, the crumbling building where the owl is roosting, it was a dancing hall. It was a ballroom, right? there were candelabras lighting the place, and the light would fall on the eyes of the dancers, 1,000 eyes, so many, that's hyperbole, right? Dancers, 1,000 eyes, right? Now his black hooded pupils stare. Now there is no light at all. Only the only eyes that are there are the black hooded pupils of the owl stare. And where the silk-shoed lovers ran with dust of diamonds in their hair, he opens now his silent wing, and like a stroke of doom drops down and swoops across the empty hole and plucks a quick mouse off the stair. So earlier this was a place where silk-shoed lovers ran about, right? But now it is the hunting ground for the owl, who would swoop down the empty hole and pluck a quick mouse off the stair. The mouse is quick, but the owl is quicker. So this is about passage of time. It's about how things change with passage of time. A place that was so full of life, so full of romance, had become a wasteland. Right? In a way, it highlights this idea of anicca. And, that's the first poem, right? Then we have this very short poem by William Shakespeare, right? This is from a very well-known drama called Love's Labour Lost, right? Love's Labour Lost, Labour's Lost. And then this comes in Act 5, Scene 2, right? Yes. When icicles hang by the wall, so here also it's winter, and Dick the shepherd blows his nail, and Tom bears locks into the hole, and milk comes frozen home in pail. When blood is knit and waste be foul, the nightly sings the staring owl. To who, to wit, to who, a merry note, while greasy John doth kneel the pot, right? Heal the pot, I'm sorry. Right there. When all aloud the wind doth blow, and coughing drowns a parson so, and birds sit brooding in the snow, and Marian's nose look red and raw, when roasted crabs hiss in the bowl, then nightly singing the staring owl, to who, to wit, to who, a merry note, while greasy John doth heel the pot, right? So now this is something very different from the previous one, right? The time of the day is the same, time of the season is also the same, but the note, the atmosphere is slightly different, right? It's a winter season when icicles hang by the wall, so it's so cold. It's not snow, it's icicles, right? Dick the shepherd blows his nail. Nail is the horn, right? So there is a shepherd called Dick. He's blowing his horn to get his, animals in. And Tom bears logs into the hole. So there is this servant or a worker who carries logs into the hole. Hole is a mansion, right? And milk comes frozen home in pails. So, people, shepherds, the dairy maids, right? They milk the cows, and by the time they come from the barn to the house, milk is frozen solid. The blood is nipped. So if you are outside, you feel the cold in your blood. The blood is nipped. And ways be foul. The roads are terrible. They are muddy and uncomfortable. Ways be foul. Foul means very bad, right? In bad condition. Then nightly sings. So when this is happening, Tom is, there are icicles hanging by the wall, and Dick the shepherd is trying to get the sheep in, and Tom is taking in logs to light up the hole, to keep the whole, warm. And then by the time the milkmaids bring in the milk to inside, it's frozen solid, right? You go outside and you feel the cold right down to your blood, and the roads are terrible in condition. What happened at this time? Then nightly sings the staring owl, right? This is a time at which the staring owl sings. Then you have this beautiful song, to who, to wit, to who, a merry note. So earlier, in the earlier poem, the owl's song was a message of ill omen. All right, it was not a pleasant, cry. It was not a pleasant sound. But here, a merry note. It's a joyous sound, a merry note. To wit, to who, merry note, right? While greasy John doth keel the pot. So there is greasy John. Greasy John is the cook, right? While the owl is making this noise, John, the cook, he's covered in oil, right? Because she has been cooking a lot. Doth keel the pot. Keel the pot is to stir up the pot, right? So it's dinner time. When all aloud the wind doth blow, and coughing drowns the parson's soul, right? There is this. There is a parson. Parson is a a religious person. A parson has a sow. Sow is a pig, a female's pig, right? Coughing drowns the parson's sow, right? So the parson's sow is also inside, right? And the parson probably is coughing, and his coughing drowns out the noises made by this sow that is occupying the same space as the parson. Now you would wonder what nonsense is that, but within those days during the winter, actually people kept their animals inside, especially if it's a valuable animal like a cow or a pig, which could determine the difference between life and death for a poor family. And they kept their animals in. All right, it served two purposes. That way the animal would be safe, and the animal's heat also would add to the general heat of the house and make it more comfortable. I don't know how how uh, what whether it is a good idea or not, but then that is what they did, and human beings survived with this arrangement. So I don't think we have any right to criticize these things, right? So the parson is coughing, and he's coughing, right? Uh, you know, uh, was louder than the sounds made by the sow. And birds sit brooding in the snow. So it's so cold, birds, they can't fly. They sit brooding in the snow, right? They just sit there, unable to fly away. And Marian's nose looks, or Marian or Marian, I don't know, right? It should be Marian, right? Marian's nose looks red and raw, right? Red and raw, that is alliteration. When roasted crab hiss in the bowl. So once again, a gastro image, right? You get this image of roasted crabs, right? So with all that cold, everybody is cold, right? People are coughing, and wind is blowing, and birds are sitting brooding in the snow, and poor Marian's nose is red. In the middle of all that, you get this image of heat. Roasted crabs hiss in the bowl. Then nightly sings the staring owl, to who, to wit, to who, a merry note, while greasy John doth kneel the pot. So you see that there you get a positive image of the owl. The owl's music is considered something positive, which is very different from the previous one, right? So then we had this really interesting poem by D.H. Lawrence, right? About the hummingbird. Do you want a break, Buddha? Before we move on to this, do you want a break? No? Okay, we are going on. So you know what a hummingbird is. In the previous one, we had the same bird looked at in two different ways, right? Hummingbird by D.H. Lawrence. Right? D.H. Lawrence, we know him mainly as a novelist, right? But then he writes beautiful poems as well. This was written somewhere around 1923, right? Long time ago. That is about 100 years ago, right? Next year, it will be 100 years since this was written, right? This has been written. Then look at this. I imagine in some other world, primeval dumb far back, in that most awful stillness that only gasped and hummed, a hummingbird raced down the avenues before anything had a soul, while life was a heap of matter, half inanimate, this little bit chipped off in brilliance and went whizzing through the slow, vast, succulent stems. I believe there was no flowers then in the world where the hummingbirds flashed ahead of creation. I believe he pierced the slow vegetable vines with his long beak. Probably he was big, as mosses and little lizards, they say, were once big. Probably he was a jabbing, terrifying monster. We look at him through the wrong end of the long telescope of time. Luckily for us, right? So here it's a very short poem, right? Uh, it's a fun kind of poem, but it has a very, you know, deep meaning to it, right? So Lawrence imagines that the hummingbird must be the what you call the first thing that had been created by God, right? I can imagine in some other world, primeval dumb. So this other world is primeval. Primeval is primitive and dumb. Right? There is no noise. Right? It's silent. Far back in the most awful stillness. Right? It's at the very beginning. All right? Before other creatures were created, there was absolute silence. In that most awful stillness, that only gasped and hummed, right? So he heard only gasping and humming. Hummingbirds raced down the avenues. So the only thing that moved was the hummingbirds. So the hummingbirds, according to D.H. Lawrence, was the first thing God had created. Before anything had a soul, while life was a heave of matter, half inanimate. So everything was, just a lump of things, half inanimate, right? It was somewhere between life and death. Nothing was created. This little bit chipped off in brilliance. So out of this entire creation, a brilliant part had just, little piece of brilliance had just broken away, right? And went whizzing through the slow, vast, succulent stems. So then there were, before life, there had been trees, right? Before animals, there had been trees already. And there were vast, slow, succulent stems. Trees were huge, right? Stems. So the first living being, the hummingbird, was whizzing past these through this succulent trees. I believe there were no flowers. So according to this poet, there weren't flowers. This was before the time of flowers, right? Uh, you know, there was a time when there weren't flowers. There were only ferns and stuff, right? So we are talking about prehistoric times, right? I believe there were no flowers. Remember, there. I believe, right? I believe there were no flowers then. That's an example of anaphora, right? I believe there were no flowers then, in the world where hummingbirds flashed ahead of creation. So, flash ahead of creation. They were the first things that were created. I believe he pierces low vegetable veins with his long beak. So, what did he eat? He, he pierced the stalk of the vegetables, the trees, and found the veins, the tubes that transported liquids up and down the trees. You call them xylems and phloems, right? Veins. With his long beak. So the hummingbird was like a mosquito piercing our skin to suck blood from our veins, right? Probably he was big, right? So he says probably the hummingbird those days were very big. As mosses and little lizards, they say were once big. He says, okay, he justifies his claim that the hummingbird might be very big those days by saying, okay, they say that even the mosses are very tiny now, and little lizards, right? They were huge those days. So therefore, the hummingbird also must have been very big those days, right? Probably he was a jabbing, terrifying monster. So the cute hummingbird that we all are in love with, maybe he was a terrifying monster those days, right? We look at him through the wrong end of the long telescope of time, right? So now we are here, right? We are big and he is small, and it is lucky for us, right? Why? Maybe he would decide that he can drink off our veins as well if he had been there at that time, probably. So here, right, you see there's a combination of the two previous poems, right? um, Shakespeare looks at the owl as a musician in a very positive manner, right? And but then Laurie Lee thinks of the owl as an ogre that brings bad news, right? About decrepit, about decadence, and all that. And here, hummingbird today is a beautiful thing, right? Something that we associate with beauty and all kinds of positive things. But once, a long time ago, maybe it was something that was terrible. That is what D.H. Lawrence says, right? So it's about not. A lot of people they wish for things that they wish that thing they could go back in time. They wish that they are in another place, right? What he's telling is, okay, where you are is better, right? We look at him through the wrong end of the long telescope of time. Luckily for us, your place in time is the best place for you, right? There. Then we have the last one, I think, that I will be looking at today is Pigeons, right? By Richard Kell. They paddle with staccato feet, right? In powder pools of sunlight. Small blue busybodies strutting like fat gentlemen with hands clasped under their swallowtail coats. And as they stump about, their heads like tiny hammers tap at the imaginary nails in non-existent walls, elusive ghosts of sunshine, slither down the green gloss of their necks in an instant and are gone. Summer hangs drugged from sky to earth in limpid fathoms of silence. Only warm, dark dimples of sound slide like slow bubbles from the content throats. Raise a casual hand with one quick gust, they fountain into the air. Right? There. Right? It's something very different from the previous three. Right? They paddle with staccato feet. The pigeons, we get a visual image. Right? They paddle with stacked feet. Stacked feet, this, special way of walk, way, pigeons walk. You would see that they walk and then suddenly they stop and then they start walking as if they have remembered to walk again, right? It's like they are in a strange kind of dance, right? They paddle. So the way they walk is like paddling, like, like little ducks. Ducks are supposed to be paddling, right? The way they walk is paddling and waddling, right? Uh, they paddle with stacked feet in powder pools of sunlight. So the place where they walk, right? Uh, it's pools of sunlight, powder pools of sunlight. That's, powder is white, right? White pools of sunlight. So that's an interesting way of describing the color of the sunlight. Powder pools of sunlight. That's beautiful, right? Powder pools of sunlight. Small blue busybodies. So the black pigeons are so black in color, they look blue. Small blue busybodies. So busybodies, that is how Richard Kell describes the pigeons. They are interested in everybody's business, busybodies. Strutting like fat gentlemen with hands clasped under their swallowtail coats. So according to the poet, right, the pigeons look like strutting fat gentlemen, right? Strutting is to walk proudly, right? You strut when you think you are very handsome, right? You walk in a way others would notice you, in a way that would draw attention to you, right? So imagine the pigeons as fat gentlemen who think that they are very handsome. So they're strutting, they're walking very consciously. And how do they walk? With their hands clasped under their swallowtail coats. Swallowtail coats are this, what you call tuxedos, but this coats with long tails, right? So they look like the pigeons look like gentlemen, fat gentlemen wearing these long tailed coats. So they are walking with their hands clasped under this coat, right? So you may have seen in old movies how these old gentlemen, fat people, right, wearing long, a coat with a long tail. So they look like little penguins, right? So they clasp their hands behind the under the tail of the coat, and they are walking up and down in a very conscious manner, self-conscious manner, because they want others to notice them. So this is how, according to the poet, the swallows strutting up and down, right, looked. And as they stump about, their heads like tiny hammers stuck at imaginary nails in non-existent walls. You may have noticed whenever pigeons walk, their heads move, up, back and forth, as if their heads are hammers and they are hitting a nail home on a wall, right? So that is how that is the comparison. Like their heads are moving like a hammer, right? That is trying to beat a nail into the wood, right? Imaginary nails, non-existent walls. Elusive ghost of sunshine slither down the green gloss of their necks in an instant and are gone. So then, while they are walking and while they are, moving their heads up, forth, back and forth, sunlight falls on their neck, the feathers on their neck, right? Elusive ghost of sunshine. Elusive is very hard to capture. Ghosts of sunshine. Remember, this is winter once again, right? All three poems, they deal with winter, right? Uh, so this elusive ghost of sunshine slither down the green gloss of their necks. So you may have seen that the neck feathers of pigeons, they are very beautiful. A lot of different colors are there, right? So this, you see the sunlight flowing down or slithering down the green gloss of their necks in an instant and are gone. For a moment, the sun reflects off the feathers on the neck and it's gone. Right? Then that's it. Right? Then you have summer. You have winter, then you have summer. Summer hangs drugged from sky to earth in limpid fathoms of silence. Only warm, dark dimples of sound slide like slow bubbles from the content throats. Now it's summertime. Now, early it was winter, powder pools of sunlight were there. And then, then here, summer hangs drugged from the sky to the earth. It's summer season and it's a time of plentifulness, right? Summer is like a drug, right? Hangs drugged from sky to earth. It's heavy, right? In limpid fathoms of silence, everything is so full that because of summer, right? Summer is a time of plentifulness, so everything is so full because of it's very silent. Only warm, dark dimples of sound slide like slow bubbles from the content root. So everybody is full. They are not talking. No noise. Right? At a time like that, raise a casual hand. Right? Somebody just raise a casual hand. With one quick gust, they fountain into air. So everything might be silent and sleepy, but even the smallest movement would startle the pigeons. You would have noticed this, right? They are very sensitive to sudden movements. With one quick gust, they fountain into air. They are like a water jetting into the air from a fountain. They just take off into the air. They fountain into the air. That's a metaphor, right? So the sudden movement of the pigeons, frightened pigeons, is compared to water of a fountain jetting into the air. Right? Okay. We are going to do this next day. Right? I don't want to do that now. Okay. So this is the task. Right? Now, we did 4 poems, right? Why couldn't it go up? We have a Town Owl by Laurie Lee, and then you have the Owl by William Shakespeare, and then you have Hummingbird by Lawrence, and then Pigeons, right? Now, what I would like you to do, select 2 poems, right? Right? I want you to write a few sentences about how, the poet's, the poetic person's attitude towards the bird. The poetic person's attitude towards the bird. What does he, what is his impression of this bird? Is it a positive impression, right? Or a negative impression? So if you think it's a positive impression, why do you say so? What kind of evidence is there for you to say that? All right. So now when you are selecting the 2 poems, this is the exercise, all right? It should be complementary. Either both, poems should have a similar view about the bird, or they should be opposite views or different views. So think about the 2 poems that you are going to comment on, right, carefully before you start answering. And this is a short assignment, Putha. You are not going to write a lot, right? For each, maybe about 100 words or less, that would be enough. 100 or less. You are not going to write a lot, right? And it is just half an hour. Now it is 8:45, you are going to stop at 9:15. 9:15, right? So you might be able to spend about quarter of an hour on one poem, all right? So you are going to compare and contrast the way the poetic persona looks at the bird in two of the poems, all right? What is his attitude? Positive, negative, right? It could be any. You just have to justify your answer, right? Then you have to say, okay, I think the attitude is like this because of these things in the poem. All right? Then you are contrasting that with some other poem. All right? You might say, okay, in this poem, the poet has a similar view about this. Or in this poem, the poet has a completely different view about the bird in the poem. I say that because of this. Right? Okay. Start with that. If you want to see a poem, let me know. I did not worry about that because I have already sent you the text. But if you have misplaced that or anything like that, or you could tell me that I can resend this. Atiyansa, do you have the text, Buddha?
Yes, teacher.
Okay, Bernadette, you have this as well, right, Buddha?
Yeah, teacher.
Yes. So just 15 minutes each, less than 100 words. You are comparing, the two attitudes. Okay, maybe I might want to write down the.